Yo, what's up? It's Pat Reacts. We are going to be reacting to I'm the Son of a Billionaire, Ask Me Anything. It's by Jubilee. They make a lot of interesting videos. I'm sure you've heard of them. So without further ado, he's gonna like blow my freaking mind. I'm so worried. Maybe I'll like it, maybe I won't. Who knows?
If you were alone in a room with the son of a billionaire, what would you ask?
Hi, nice to meet you.
Hey, how are you?
I'm good.
Do I like
Yo.
shake hands?
What's up, bro?
What's your name?
Well, first off, right off the bat, folks, you know, we're still going through the pandemic, brother. You can't just shake people's hands. Shame on both of you. That's that billionaire privilege, you know what I'm saying? Like, unreal, man. Like, who does he think he is? You know, he can just go around spreading the COVID to everybody.
Name.
I'm Bobby.
Can I give you a gift?
Of course, his name's Bobby. Unbelievable.
Yeah. Wow. Thank you. Amazing.
Look at it. We already got it. We already got a kiss ass. She's trying to, getting good with the billionaire. Well, really, he's not a billionaire. He's the son of a billionaire. So I guess, I doubt his dad's going to give him his $1 billion. But who knows?
I got them at the dollar store for you, so I hope you
Oh,
like
wow.
it.
Cool. I appreciate it. I'll hold on to them.
What does your dad do?
He started off in the music industry. He started basically the biggest like creative media college, teaching like music production, sound engineering, and now he has like a flight school as well, and like recording studios and real estate, obviously.
What industry are you in?
I'm a film director and a YouTuber. On YouTube, I make like sort of like short films about my life.
What would you say so far your craziest moment has been in life?
Craziest moment of my life is definitely when I was on tour with Designer, and we flew into Japan, and I take Adderall. So I was just prescribed that by the doctor, you know what I'm saying? I'm on tour, like I'm trying to be a productive citizen, I'm trying to work hard. And I came in there with that, and I didn't check before that it's like Class A substance there, like super illegal. And I went to jail for 2 months basically when we landed. I was sleeping on the floor, you get like...
my God. You're in like a prison cell?
Yeah, it's like with like a couple other Japanese dudes.
Are you single?
What the heck? Yeah, I definitely think, luckily he got out, luckily it wasn't, a country that wouldn't be agreeable or, at least gave him a fair shake because, if you go to the wrong country with stuff like that and you get caught with it, it can really screw your life up. So, obviously he's the son of a billionaire, so he probably had a little bit of pull there that a regular person, like, say me, wouldn't have if I went to, Japan and had Adderall on me or something like that. I guess probably because it's at least he had a prescribed drug, right? And he had a prescription, so maybe that's why he was able to, like, hire good enough lawyers and get out of it, and claim, like, ignorance. But I would definitely say if you're going to travel to anywhere outside the United States of America or wherever your home country is, you probably want to do research into what you can and cannot have there. That would just be my bet right off the bat. And you could have prevented that whole situation. But he probably doesn't plan ahead that far because he's the son of a billionaire. Never had to do that. I don't got anything against billionaires. I'm just like, I feel like most normal human beings would have like been worried about that. Like I would never have brought a thing of pills, even if it's in a prescription bottle, etc. I would never bring it to another country, especially something like Adderall. If I hadn't done the research and made sure and gone through the proper channels to make sure it's okay that I have this, or get the waiver or whatever form you need to fill out, or whatever it is, the proper channels you have to go through. But that's because I know that getting in trouble for something like that. I don't have the funds and necessary things to just be able to just like, oh yeah, hire the best lawyer you can, etc. I don't have that kind of pool. So I feel like you always should err on the side of caution when it comes to anytime you're visiting somewhere that you aren't from naturally. Just because you want to be respectful to the people and the place that you go. So knowing their rules and laws and what to do and not to do is pretty important. Like, dude, there was a big case, I think it was in Singapore, if I'm not mistaken, where these two guys like were in Singapore walking through the streets, and they either spit on the ground or they spit gum on the ground. I'm not exactly sure, but that's like a huge no-no. You don't litter there. You don't spit on the ground. It's considered like a massive disrespectful thing. And they did that and got arrested and were publicly beat in the town square for doing that. That was their crime. And then they were allowed to leave the country. But they spent, I can't remember how many months in jail. I think it was months. I don't even think it was weeks. And then they had to go, the U.S. Embassy had to reach out and beg for them to be allowed out of jail and to leave and not to, punish them. They didn't know, blah, blah, blah. It was just a whole long thing. And all they had to do was know that that wasn't okay and not do that. And they would have been fine. So it's no joke when you go somewhere that's not your country. Make sure you know what you're getting yourself into.
Bingo.
Yes. Oh,
Okay.
no, I'm not.
Damn.
Actually, I was saying yes because you gave me the flowers, but no.
That's okay. I barely like guys anyway.
How does the amount of money you have affect how you interact with women?
I guess it's given me the ability to abuse my position, especially with like going out and partying and the nightclub scene and stuff, where it's like I could hook up with like models, and obviously that was like super cool when I was like 18 to like 21, and I was like thinking like, wow, this is everything. Like I don't need a girl to like me and to be in a relationship with. Like I just need like a girl who's gonna be like super hot and act as like an accessory. But as obviously I went through things in life, I started to realize that it's really nice to have a healthy relationship with someone that you actually, love.
Who's the most famous?
I can't really hate on him for that, just because I think I would say 99% of all people, if they were put in his situation and were raised in a family of that kind of, money and stuff, it's like, especially when you're young and stupid and your brain's not fully developed and you care so much about status. Because, I don't care what anybody says. Anybody who goes through high school and just out of high school, like even into college, like they're so obsessed with that. And some people never get out of it. And they're always obsessed with how they look, how people perceive them, etc. And it goes on throughout their life, So, like, I get why he would have that mindset about like, I'm like have this massive ego. I'm sure he had a massive ego, and then it's like he's gonna be like, hey, just come party with me, and people are going to agree because they know they're gonna have a good time. And why wouldn't they when somebody can spend thousands of dollars and basically allow you to club and live that party lifestyle that is so much idolized in so many different TV shows and movies? Why wouldn't they say yes to that? I think most people would if they were given the opportunity, at least for a night or a weekend or whatever, And so imagine if you had that at your ability at any given time, no matter, every weekend you could do that. You could just do that. No problem. Like, imagine that. especially because you are not a developed human being that has learned. Okay, so say like his father, right? His father, this is one reason that generational wealth, a lot of times, even though I know people talk about how, there's these families that have generational upon generational wealth, like say the, I don't know, the Clintons or, I'm blanking on the other people's names. I know more than that, but, people like that, it's like, they are an outlier. There are not many people that end up being that successful for that long, because I think the statistics right now are, if a lot of people can become millionaires in America. There's lots of people that jump in and out of that bracket every year, and the main thing is, somebody might become a multi-millionaire, and I think the statistic is within 1 to 2 generations of a person doing that, all that wealth has been lost and transferred to somebody else. So it's very rare to see someone maintain that level of wealth for generation upon generation. And the main reason is that there's a saying that says, strong times make for strong men. Well, you could translate it to say strong time, or not strong times. Hard times make for strong men, or, hard times make for strong women. Going through lots of hardship and having to learn from the many mistakes and losses, etc., the pain you suffer from that, going through that journey, is what teaches you the tools you need to be successful. If you critically, look at what you're doing and say, hey, why am I doing it this way? Why don't I change my actions, my behavior, etc.? And obviously it's much harder than that, but there is a process you go through. I am not the same person I was at 10, at 20, and now at 30. I've constantly grown up and changed. And so if you were to talk to, 20-year-old Patrick, well, he's probably going to have a lot of different beliefs and ways of thinking than me now. And I'm talking about everything, religion, politics, ideologies, everything, video games, things that I'm passionate about, or was back then, I might not even care about anymore, So you're constantly changing and evolving. And especially when you're young, I think from, your young teenage adolescent years, when you really start to think for yourself and challenge things around you, and go through your rebellious stage of saying why is it this way, and why do I have to do this, and blah blah blah. That's pushing your boundaries and figuring out what the boundaries of society and the place that you live in is. But you don't fully, there is science behind this, you don't fully develop in your brain, and especially in your frontal cortex. I think for men, I think it's 25. I don't know if it's different for women or not, but and your frontal cortex is decision making and impulsivity control, and people with ADD have less impulsivity control and good decision making, right? So it's it's going to totally change your perspective, and it's just interesting to see that. What would you do if you were given wealth with no limits when you were young and stupid? A lot of people would make a lot of bad decisions.
Famous person that you ever got with?
Lindsay Lohan. I was I met her at the Cannes Film Festival, and I ended up, I passed out on her couch, and she woke me up.
On Lindsay Lohan's couch?
Yeah.
Oh my God.
So I also wanted to ask what your relationship was like with your parents growing up.
My dad was like not around really. He was just building like this empire. So he was traveling around the world. Like I never just would see him like once a year. That kind of made him like this mysterious like icon in my life. Like this guy who was like traveling around the world and like just making it happen, you know what I'm saying? But then my mom was like really like the one that, you know, raised me, taught me everything I know about compassion and love and being kind and fair.
Do you think that people discredit your talent and
So that's interesting. I think that's more common than you know, too, because, you know, behind all of it, to become that successful and that wealthy, I think people discredit the amount of effort and time you have to spend doing it. And a lot of these guys, you know, that become filthy rich, and I would say, you know, the many women that have done it too. You know, are you really present in your family if you have a family, or if you even have a family, which you probably do because you're so well off, you know, somebody's going to be willing to put up with you being a workaholic. But are you really present in your children's lives and like taking care of them and teaching them how to be a human and how to make good decisions and why to, you know, delay gratification and teach you how to be responsible, etc. You know, and each parent in a household teaches their kids different things because each human is different, right? You know, your mom and dad are going to teach you different life skills that you will use and then use to interpret the world and define the world and travel through it and, you know, deal with all the problems that every human faces. You know, I don't think anybody really has like an easy ride. Even this guy, it might seem like it in this like 10-minute video or whatever. We'll see. But yeah, he'll have an easy ride as far as like not having to worry about where the money's coming from and food and stuff. But as far as navigating relationships and things, it sounds like, you know, he basically had like an absent father who's never there. And, you know, most kids that have that happen don't turn out that great. So I would be interested to do research into him and find out what happens to him. But, you know, single parent households have always had an issue with their kids being like decently functioning humans, etc. It's kind of sad to say, but it is a statistic that has not been proven wrong yet. So maybe we'll figure it out, and eventually it won't be that way. But until then, sucks, man. So yeah, I'd be interested to see, you know, how that affected him not having his father basically in his life the majority of his life, and it sounds like he might not even be in his life now, if he even stayed with the mother, and didn't, you know, divorce her, or if he even got married to her, etc. But a lot of people that become successful like this, people idolize them and are like, I can't believe this guy's so filthy rich and whatever. Like, how could he be that way? Like, it's so unfair. But, you know, and while it is, you know, pretty sad and tragic in a way, it's like they chose to make that sacrifice and be a workaholic. The idea that you're just going to become successful and well off in life by just like working 40 hours is just not true, you know? Because who do you think's going to succeed more? A banker that works 40 hours or a banker that works 80 hours? You know, no matter how skilled they are, the amount of time you put into things greatly changes what you're going to see out of it. But there is a cost that comes with that. And I feel like a lot of humans aren't willing to pay that cost because it is brutal. It's not fun. It's lonely. And I'm not even saying that it's worth it. But, people still do it. So they convince themselves that they're going to do that. And that's what they do.
And hard work because of you and your family's money.
Every single day of my career as a filmmaker, I think the way I make my success my own is like with my creativity and my talent rather than focusing on, trying to make a bunch of money because I feel like my dad already did that.
What is your daily routine?
It's very varied for me. Sometimes like I'll have something that I'm working towards, like one project, and it'll be like a full day of like working really hard and like doing a whole bunch of stuff. Other than that, I'm just editing. What's your daily routine like?
I'm homeschooled. I go to soccer practice, but for me, like I'm kind of like low income, so I usually take the bus. It takes me like 2 hours.
2 hours?
Yeah.
How do you feel when you see like a poor person on the street?
I've experienced that. I did a show where I was homeless for 3 nights. The people that I knew that I met on the show, they kind of wanted to stay there because they could make 60 pounds in a day. So for them, they were like, why would I go and work when I can just sit here and put my head down and cross my legs and get 60 pounds? They're gonna go buy weed, alcohol, and they were like, had more food than they needed.
Don't you feel like you could do like a little bit?
Alone in a room with the son of a billionaire.
Oops. I screwed that up. I'm sorry.
Where I was homeless for 3 nights. The people that I knew that I met on the show, they kind of wanted to stay there because they could make 60 pounds in a day. So for them, they were like, why would I go and work when I can just sit here and put my head down and cross my legs and get 60 pounds? They're gonna go buy weed, alcohol, and they were like, had more food than they needed.
Don't you feel like you could do like a little bit more?
So this is an interesting question about people in poverty. And while I definitely don't think he understands their experience by, sleeping and being homeless purposely choosing to be homeless for 3 days. I also have the experience of, I used to be a manager for convenience stores, gas stations, a general manager, etc. And I worked my way up from basically being an associate and then an entry-level manager all the way up to GM. And, homeless people frequent gas stations, whether to sit outside and try and beg for money, to go up to the pumps and beg for money, to go into the store and steal stuff out of your store, use your bathrooms, etc. And I've had a lot of conversations with them because I do a good job of getting people to open up and talk to me because I generally do want to just like listen to them and hear. I think it's really interesting to hear people's stories, whether they're homeless or not. It was always a problem because when you're working a job like that, especially for the company I work for, it was extremely fast paced. They had a lot of things going on. It was one of the better C-stores in the area by a lot. And so, you were running around like a madman and, yeah. And so, taking time to talk to people is really not in your best interest. But I did it because I believed in, I do believe in like customer service and treating people right. And I tried to do the best that I could. Although, at some point, you have to like run people off and tell them to leave, etc. when they start asking for money or stuff, because it makes people uncomfortable, especially in the mornings and at night when it's darker and having somebody walk up to you like that. It's just not good for the business or whatever. So you'd have to run them off, etc. But I still would have like genuinely good conversations with a ton of them. Some of them I even let come back I just said, don't ask for money on my property. But if you just need to come back, use the bathroom, you need a glass of water or something, that's no big deal, and I would talk to a lot of them, and some would open up more than others. But the whole point of this is that it was pretty crazy to learn that, a lot of them, chose to be that way. Like, it wasn't that they just like lost their job or something and then they just like gave up. Like, there was always circumstances that led to it. And, maybe they weren't always telling me the truth. It's hard to tell. You can only take people at face value. And I feel like some people like would tell you the truth, and some people would tell you a story that they had, created. But it was hard to tell the difference between the two. So yeah, a lot of them would choose it, and they didn't want out of it because a ton of people feel a great amount of sympathy for them. And so I would still get people that would complain to me about it, but I mean, they would still get a ton of money. People would go into the store and buy them stuff instead, like food, water, etc. And because of whatever they were, most of them, it was addiction. So they chose to be homeless because of addiction. So if they weren't addicted to the drug that they were addicted to, whether it was, heroin, meth, crack cocaine, whatever, I don't think they would have been homeless. But you're not going to be able to keep a job being addicted to a drug like that and disappearing for days on end when you get a good amount of money saved up and buy a big load of it, and stay awake for 9 days straight. Like, one guy told me 9 days straight, he never went to sleep because he was on meth. And he'd been doing this for, I don't know, a long time. And he he literally told me that, he called himself Jesus of Ascension, because he lived in Ascension Parish in Louisiana. And he played on people's, like, what they felt was bad. And I let him come back to my store for 7-8 months, until one day he was in the store, and this guy that came there all the time that was like a truck driver, he'd bring his truck, his big 18-wheeler truck, but without the trailer, and he would like fuel it up and stuff in between jobs. He told me that he was a demon, and his eyes were completely black, and that his antennas were attacking everybody around him and stuff. And at that point, I was like, and he kept saying that to the guy and like getting in his face. And so I finally ended up having to be like, it's not cool. You can't do stuff like that. But yeah, he would have completely lucid conversations with me when he wasn't completely either drunk or on meth. And it was crazy. Yeah, he basically said people were suckers. And, he wanted to do drugs, and, they would give him the things he needed. And then the rest of the time he would walk around and collect things, and he would go to freaking car washes and rummage through their trash and pick up all their change, and then use the change to buy stuff. So he was an industrious guy. Like, it wasn't like he just sat on the side of the street all day. Like, he had a whole routine, just so he could feed his habit and never have to work a job, etc. And he was completely crazy. I could tell you so many stories about him. It would probably blow your mind. And yeah, so it was very eye-opening talking to them and finding out that I would say a vast majority of them are just using you to help them. But you still feel bad for them. When you see them on the side of the road and they look like they're about to die, you still feel bad for them. You still want to give them stuff. And sometimes they are literally about to die. And so you do give them stuff because you do feel for them. You have empathy. So it just is kind of crazy.
More because you have that money?
When I see poor people, like, sure, like maybe I want to help them, but like how? The world isn't a fair place. Like, I don't have time to spend my entire day going around like looking after homeless people. That's not who I am. I'm focused on like building stuff and helping people that want to change their lives and they want to do something positive for the community.
Do you think that billionaires should exist?
Yeah, I think it's great because there's a reason that people become billionaires. It's not like you're a billionaire now. You know what I mean? Like, they take it. And the reason that they are where they are is because they're people that worked extremely hard and they've done something exceptional for the world.
As you said, that's great and that they take. So I don't know about how great it is that they take something.
It's there. You know what I'm saying? Like, that's the system that we've created to you know, make society and make things work.
But do you think that system is exploited usually by these people?
Yeah, I think if you want to get to a certain level, you do have to exploit the system in a certain way. You can't just play completely fair.
Yeah, and that's a good point to make too, is that when you make a certain amount of money, I think to make more, you do not play fair anymore. You definitely don't. You find ways around the law. You find ways to manipulate the system. And I don't agree with him saying that it's good. I don't think it's healthy for the society. But I do believe that, you know, I appreciate Bill Gates for making the computer and it being what it is today, because without him, you know, who knows where we would be. And there's a lot of bad things that came about because of that, but it's also good. So, like, do I think the guy didn't deserve to make a lot of money? I don't know. It's hard for me to say that because nobody else thought of that idea. So how much is an original idea that betters everybody's life worth? But, you know, I think there's a fine line. I don't know. I don't think it's good to exploit and use people and systems to just make more money. Okay, you know, that's just greed controlling you. That's like selfish obsession controlling you. And I don't think being selfish and desiring stuff just simply for yourself your whole life and like focusing only on that and like making more and more money is necessarily good. But I do think that people give, you know, rich people a bad rap, and that, you know, a lot of rich people are doing a lot of stuff that create jobs. You know, they build things, they create jobs, they build infrastructure to be able to create the plants and things they need, you know. And so there is a wealth transfer that happens, and that, yes, they are worth a lot of money, but they also spend a lot of money into your economy, and that actually helps you. So it's a give and take. But I think there is a fine line between it being okay and then just being like you're just completely exploiting the people, you know.
Because otherwise you're not going to get there. There's a lot of billionaires who do a lot of great things and they employ thousands of people and they're really, really good bosses, you know, especially when you see people that have built it up.
Well, I would say I would disagree with that they're really great bosses. I don't think that necessarily translate, and a lot of times they hire people that are not great bosses either, you know. So it depends on the corporation and everything you work for. And sometimes I'm sure they are great bosses, but I do not think it inherently makes you a good boss. It just makes you a very cold-hearted, you know, exploitative, brutal person, because that's what you kind of have to be to make it to that. You know, you can't think about other people. It's just about yourself.
Ground up, like Elon Musk, or like there's so many that are self-made. It gives people, I feel like, the ambition and they feel like they can do it.
Elon Musk was not self-made.
Oh, okay.
He came out from the family of millionaires.
How do you tip?
I think here it's like very much so like this big tipping culture. And a lot of the time I'm like, Like, bro, like for like Uber Eats, like I'm not tipping.
Yeah, I don't agree with that. I mean, I do agree that maybe it would be better to create a system in where you just pay whatever the company needs in order to pay the employee what they feel like is a fair wage. You could make an argument that that's a better way to do it than have a tipping system. But if you have a tipping system inside, you are, I mean, if you have a tipping system in your business model, you are asking the consumer to help pay your laborers' wages, which is kind of screwed up. But I don't think it's just to not tip somebody simply because they should get paid a wage or whatever. At the end of the day, I've worked many jobs that have tipping. Well, I've been a server, a bartender, and I've been a Lyft driver and an Uber driver at one point. And tips made a huge difference in how much money I made. And it wasn't like I was making some gross amount of money, but I do think it's good to tip people unless they do a bad job. I don't think you should just be guaranteed to get a tip. It should be based off of like how well you did. Like, did you do your job well or not? And if you do a great job, like, give the person a tip. If they do a crap job, maybe don't give them a tip or give them a smaller tip. But I don't know. Most of the rest of the world doesn't do this. This is mostly just a American thing as far as tipping goes.
Sorry. I know they're getting paid to be an Uber Eats driver, and it's like taxes, fees, delivery fee, surcharge on the food. It's like, bro, I'm not made of money. I'm not like just giving it out.
Like just like very briefly, I did try working for like Postmates. It's just like a one-time trip just to see how it was, and they pay really, really low. Like it wouldn't even make like minimum wage for like.
Right.
You could try. I would suggest you could try doing an Uber Eats just to see what it feels like.
Hero or villain?
Yeah, and I agree with her. A lot of times they don't make great money. Although I would say that if you try it one time, you are not going to be efficient. But me, I have been a Lyft driver before and an Uber driver. And when I first started driving, I made less money. But as I got better and better at it, I made better money. Was it great money, like to sustain, the lifestyle I wanted and to like pay for the things I wanted, etc.? It really depends on a little bit of luck, who you get ride wise, whether they tip you well or not. There's so many variables, knowing the area, but there's a lot to learn before you get really good at it. But once you do get good at being a Lyft driver and knowing your area and knowing how to drive and knowing the shortcuts and the streets and etc., you can be much more efficient with your time, and it can end up making you pretty good money. But it comes at a cost because you're driving a vehicle around, and that costs money, And I don't think that Uber, Lyft, or the government gives enough like tax write-offs and ways to like make up for the expense that you have to spend on your vehicle, especially if you have a nicer vehicle. And in my opinion, you need a nice vehicle, especially if you're doing Lyft. Now, if you're doing Uber Eats or whatever, you could drive the worst vehicle in the world, the cheapest little thing, and you might be able to make good money off doing that because it doesn't matter how nice the car is. It's just how fast are you getting the food and taking it to the person. But as a Lyft driver, it's like, when I drove in my Lexus, that was only worth like 10 grand, but it looked nice. People liked riding in my Lexus, even though, it was 10 years old and it cost 10 grand. To them, it was a luxury vehicle and they enjoyed riding in it. And then when I drove with my truck's pretty nice truck, um, and people really liked riding in my truck. But gas mileage is just terrible. The truck is really expensive. Putting all those miles on the engine is really not that great, and it devalues the truck a lot. So I'm like, I don't know if it's worth it as much as people say it is. But I mean, I made decent money off of Lyft, driving it part-time, like 30 hours a week for 5-6 months. I had another job and that job.
Villain for sure.
Why?
I feel
But people did tip me, and without the tips, I would have made far less money.
like their life is generally cooler and they don't have to accommodate for as many people. They sort of just look after themselves and like have a lit time, and like the Joker, like, bro, he's having a fantastic time.
Yeah.
He's just having fun. I'm saying,
Yeah, that's a little bit maybe like a sociopath. I don't think I would want to be the villain. And I don't even know if I'd want to be the hero. So that's a lot of responsibility. But I don't think just, being all focused about yourself and having fun and how things make you feel, and that's the only thing you ever think about, you're probably not going to stay. I mean, you're not going to be able to be in a relationship with anybody. You're not going to be able to raise kids because, I don't know. There's a lot of things that for society to continue, if everybody followed this guy's advice, this society would fall apart.
everyone else is panicking, like, oh my God, save the world, and he's just like laughing. So
Would you consider yourself you're the villain in your own life?
yeah, I'd say I consider myself a villain, but it's like a necessary evil in life, because without it, then there isn't the good guys. You know what I'm saying? So I feel like there's a balance of that.
I've seen your Instagram.
I don't agree with being the villain, but I do agree with the idea that contrast can't be without something to contrast it to, right? So would you understand what good was if there wasn't evil, and vice versa? So that's one of the things that like yin yang teaches, is like the concept that there's like two forces that are opposing each other, or black and white, right? It's like you wouldn't know what white looks like if you didn't have this color that was so opposite to it, right? That creates such contrast between the two. That's why black and white look so good together, right? Because your eye just naturally goes to it. Yeah, that's why white and black are also really good colors to mix and like match with all sorts of different colors, because they go so well with so many things, because they contrast and compare the color to the black or the white. So I think the same goes with like, anything, like living in just heaven. How, if you believe in the concept of heaven, how would you understand what heaven was unless you understood what like suffering was? So I do think there is like an interesting thing that's like a whole like philosophical debate to get into, but yeah, I've talked like 3 hours before with friends of mine about that.
Is this you?
Yeah.
So what do you think about that mask? What does it mean to you versus like obviously what it means to other people, and how it doesn't really represent the class that you're in?
Yeah, I know it's like anonymous, the thing, but
Well, I would say with that too is it's like, I mean, just because you wear that mask, in fairness, yes, somebody usurped it and made it into that, but that's not where the mask originated from. So it does not necessarily mean that you are part of Anonymous or agree with them because you wear the mask. And I also don't think Anonymous is just 100% against rich people. They're against very specific you know, groups of people usually that are, you know, like, yeah, like what the definition says right there, where they feel like they're abusing their power or hiding things or whatever, you know. Governments are like that, Facebook, corporations. So I don't know about that.
I just see it as like a mask, and that I can like do something where it's not me.
So why that mask versus like a Scooby-Doo mask, or what
It's
is
just
it
the most
that mask
readily
about?
available mask.
Okay.
I literally just like, you go anywhere and you can buy those.
And I also think that there's like the part about like it's kind of cool to wear it, you know, like in the Purge movies, etc. Like there's like this weird like fetish or like obsession with that mask now because of an Anonymous and like standing up against big governments and, you know, corruption. But I don't think Anonymous is like inherently just like hates all people that are wealthy. It would depend on what corporation you run and how you run it, you know? If it was so, then they would just hack all these corporations. And I'm sure there's many corporations they could hack, etc. But maybe they choose not to because the mission statement and, you know, what people say about the company dissuades them from doing it. And they pick on very particular corporations, etc., that step out of their reach and are opposed to like freedom.
I mean, it all seems kind of non-specific because that mask has like meaning to it, though, is what I'm saying.
I'm on like the people's side at the same time as like, I'm like, oh, I'm like, have like this big situation, like my father's super wealthy and everything. But for me, it's like, I feel like I'm on the side of the people. You know what I'm saying? And then that's like my ultimate goal is to help out, you know, the people that I feel deserve it.
What have you done that has been like the most impactful for you or like the world?
I think inspiring people through my videos. I get so many messages saying like how I've inspired them and how I've like showed people how to make videos in a certain way. I feel like I help out a lot of young filmmakers and photographers and stuff to get into the game. I'll like bring up people that wouldn't normally be given the opportunity. With charities, I've always seen it as like this, like you give money to a charity and then what, it just disappears.
Yeah. So even though this might be an unpopular opinion, it's like, it's very hard to tell what people are going to do with your money once you give it to them, you know? So in general, just donating to charities and stuff isn't always necessarily going to go to the people that they say it's going to go to, etc. So I do like the idea of like vetting and making sure people are want that money for the right reasons and they're not just going to waste it. So I don't necessarily believe that like just like taking money from people, like say take money from a billionaire and give it to somebody else, does not mean that that guy's going to be successful, etc. You have to show a level of like intelligence and savvy and knowing what to do with it, or the willingness to learn that before, you know, if I had extra money to give to somebody, I'm not just going to give my hard-earned money away. And yes, I get that he has not earned the money as much as his father earned the money. But I don't think it's a bad mindset to have that says like, you know, you should be very critical of what you're giving your money to and making sure that, I mean, at the end of the day, it's all subjective. So people give money to people that I would never give money to and vice versa, you know? So, you're never 100% going to know if the decision was right. And I mean, this is why like people that win the lottery aren't successful, because just giving somebody money is not enough. They have to know how to handle the money and spend the money and save the money and invest the money and how to live a lifestyle where you have that kind of money. So, you know, that's why people that come up quick can have a very hard time dealing with that, because it's like they never really learned how to like control and like take care of their money, and then all of a sudden they have all this money and they're just idiots with it and they spend it everywhere, you know?
What I like is like you personally doing something to someone and then you see their actual reaction and the results of what happens then.
Do you ever worry about losing your wealth?
Yeah, money when I was, I guess, like 16 to like 21, I just wanted to spend anything as much as I could.
To flex or like for
yeah,
fun?
to flex. You know, you'd end up spending everything on something expensive and then have absolutely no money at all, and be living breadline until you got your allowance the next month. That was what it was like for me.
Allowance.
Yeah.
Oh, how much was your allowance?
It's like $2,000 a month. Like my dad's always said, like, you know, that's all you get.
That's all you get.
Just if
I mean, to be fair, $2,000 is not that great, but it is a nice little baseline, you know. And then if you find a way to make a couple more $1,000, like $2,000, so $500 a week, which I don't think is that unattainable for a lot of people, yeah, you could live a pretty nice lifestyle with that. So, because that would be $100,000 a year. So, I mean, he's definitely making $52,000 a year, regardless of what work he's doing, which is pretty good. It gives you a lot of freedom, but that's also not like great money, especially nowadays with inflation and fuel and everything costing what it does. Like, I'm actually shocked that that's all it was, that his dad didn't give him more money than that.
I have like an idea that is going to make money, then he'll give me money for that. He doesn't like to just, he's not like other parents where he'll just give me money because like, oh, I want to go on holiday. You know, my dad, he's much older now. One of the big things on my mind is making sure that I'm going to be the man for my family when my dad is gone, because I'm one of the only son. So
Yeah.
What would you say is the hardest part of your life?
living up to my dad, I like always have been in like that shadow. And like everyone's always sort of told me like, you'll never be as good as him, or you never do what he did. I just wanted to be proud of me. So like what I wanted to do was do something solely creative, which was, you know, being a film director and a YouTuber. I feel like that's how I want to make him proud.
My dad's actually a billionaire as well.
Wow, yeah.
So we're actually in the same boat here.
That's lit.
Yeah, it is lit. So I kind of get everything you're coming from.
There you go, I was waiting for this. I knew you guys were gonna pull this out of the hat.
Yeah.
Are you in college right now?
No, I don't even go to school. I just kind of living life, doing YouTube, traveling, having fun.
Well, it's lit. We should make some videos together.
Yeah, I'm
right?
down.
Hey, Bobby, seeing as you're older than Gage, do you have any advice for him?
If like your dad gives you a bunch of money, don't blow it on stupid shit.
Oh yeah.
Invest
sure.
it. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
I wish I fucking like with my trust fund had bought Bitcoin or something. At least some of it invested.
Right.
You know what I'm saying?
What'd you blow all that money on?
Fucking nothing. Like bro, literally like 30K a month on Amex. Like staying at the Beverly Hills Hotel for 2 weeks in a row. Like,
yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Paying for all my friends. Like,
right.
Yeah, see, that's what I'm saying. Like, just giving somebody money is not going to make them successful. And having a dad like that may push him to be successful, maybe, because I definitely understand the idea of like wanting to make your parents proud. And me as a son, I do want my father to be proud of me and feel like I've achieved and done something with my life like he has, you know? So I definitely think it is a driving factor, and it helps, focus me and say, I want to do better. I want to do this. I want to grow. I want to get better, because I want to show, my father, hey, I am capable. I did learn. I did listen to what you said. I can do this. And he's not anybody that's like filthy rich or anything. He's like middle class or whatever. But I respect the guy. I love him. I think he taught me so many, but he was in my life where, unlike this poor dude who barely ever saw him, I've seen my dad a lot. He's still alive, so I don't know why I'm talking about him in the past tense. Sorry, Dad. but a lot of the things that he's done, the way he has taught me how to be a successful person, or at least a fighter, because I have not always been successful. I've gone through a lot of rough times, and you know, my parents have saved me from bad mistakes that I made in the past, and I'm blessed to have them. But yeah, I do understand that idea of like wanting to make your, you know, your dad proud as a son, and being like, I can do what you did. I can at least match what you did. Like, it's almost like a, not a competition, but it's like, you know, you want them to respect you, and in order to gain the respect, you feel like you need to like earn it. It's not enough just to be born from them. It's like, you don't want them to see you as somebody that was just given everything, or, you know, spoiled. For me, it's like, I want to be independent. I want to show my family and my friends that, you know, I can survive on my own, and I can be smart enough to figure out how to make money and be successful in life. And without my father, you know, I don't think I would have a lot of the mentalities and decision making skills, the drive that I do, without him like working on instilling that in me, like through basketball or whatever it was, you know. He taught me so many things that are applicable to the rest of my life. And without having him in it and doing all those things, you know, I fully believe I would not be anywhere close to who I am today. So, you know, and same goes for my mom. So it's like each of them has taught me different things, but it's invaluable what they've taught me. So love you guys.
Right. Like booking like a first class flight, and then like instead of changing it, just missing it and booking another one.
Yeah, but I feel like everyone needs that experience to, you know, you get a bunch of money and then you lose it all and then you learn. What's up? I've seen you before.
Hey, is there?
Yeah, I've seen some video.
Yeah,
I've seen video.
That's lit.
Crazy.
Well, interesting. Tell me what you think about this. I definitely don't agree with everything he said, especially in the way he said it, because I feel like there was definitely some almost like callousness, because he's definitely never been like poor or experienced, you know, being broke and barely being able to pay your bills for months on end or whatever. Like, I don't think he's ever gone through stuff like that. So it's interesting to see a perspective of a billionaire. I feel like they asked him some pretty good questions, and some of those guys were kind of like trying to interview him and get him, you know, get him to say stupid stuff, which he did. Like, that villain thing was yikes. I feel like he kind of gave like Sociopath, but I don't know. It's hard to tell, because again, you know, he was raised in a completely different way than I am. So I don't know. But anyways, peace, guys. Appreciate you watching the video.